Knowing how to wrap your handlebars with bar tape is, I believe, an essential skill that every cyclist on road and gravel bikes needs to know. And I know that fitting bar tape can seem a daunting and intimidating process, but in today's video, a pro bike mechanic, Scott Jones from Cotswold Bike Works, will show us how easy it is to wrap your handlebars with a fresh new tape.
It's one of those jobs where practice makes perfect, and after doing it year in, year out for 25 plus years, it's fairly simple for me now. There are a few different methods and ways to doing it and reasoning for that, but essentially just give it a practice, and if you feel like you've gone wrong, just rewind and start again.
And apart from bar tape, what tools do we need?
Scissors, insulation tape, that's pretty much it, to be honest, and make sure they're close to hand, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end and then going, oh, I've not got scissors, and then losing your tape.
And top to bottom or bottom to top? I
go bottom to top, sorry. It's force of habit for me and the way I do it, because I've been doing it the same for so long. So if I try and do something differently now, obviously it feels a bit, a bit weird, a bit alien. So this is just the way I'm used to doing it. Backing tape all the way off. I never used to take it all the way off, but I do now because I've got a clean floor. If you haven't got a clean floor or pets, then leave the backing half on, otherwise you get hair all over it. And generally we've got MV bars here with their own plugs built in. To pull back, which gives it a nice finish. So with a standard bar, I would be overlapping slightly to allow you to put the plug in afterwards. With these shaped, makes it a little bit more difficult on these bars. What you can do, and I've seen other mechanics do lately as well, is a little bit of double-sided tape just around the edge there, so you're not going to lose the tape when you start. Say after a bit of practice, you get used to it.
Are you wrapping in a particular direction here?
I'm coming outwards. Obviously there's conversations on how people ride, and if you're riding and sprinting, which way your wrist is going is essentially tightening the tape so it wouldn't come loose. But then the way I do the top is technically it would be coming loose, but I've never really had anyone with tape come loose. So there's pros and cons to, and arguments to each and every way.
And you're putting the tape quite tight?
I'm giving it a little bit of a pull, just so that when I come around, I'm not getting too much sort of baggy tape on the edges there. Baggy tape.
And how much overlap are you going for here?
I'm probably about sort of 3/4, because as I'm coming around the corners, you're finding that you got a bigger gap there than you are there, just so there's a natural sort of curve to the tape. And you'll find some tapes harder to tape than others. This one's got a bit of malleability, that's the word, to it, so it's slightly better to go around the corners. And I'll be going traditional figure of 8 and coming up over the top. Try not to go too fast. Round and down. Some say that this bulks up the lever and it doesn't feel nice. Others will just come sort of straight up and use a cheat strip. And
quite tricky from that bit.
The hardest bit will be getting it around a 90-degree bend with tape that doesn't sort of stretch too well. And if in doubt or you're not sure about your area around there, you can peel the hood back just to make sure it's going to sit nicely. It sits a little high on the...
No gaps?
No gaps. I could essentially stretch these out a little bit. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to... I'll show you.
For an example, don't
show
be
you.
afraid to
Yes.
go back.
It's exactly what I did in a certain final. You go back now before it's too late. So I'm going to bring that up closer. But if I take a couple back, I've got room there
You're just reducing the overlap.
Yeah. I've got room now.
So the figure of 8 avoids using that extra bit of tape you often get in the box.
Yeah, which would just be going around the bands just to hide any gaps when you've got the hood back. With some, it is a bit of a cheat, they call it cheat strips, but with Campax shifters, with the clamp's in a different position, so most of the time you do have to use it on those. There is a way of not, but...
Over.
So now I'm going figure 8 again.
And under.
Under.
Over the top and then under the bottom.
There we go, and now I've got less bulk.
And then over the top. And you're happier this time around.
I'm going to check it now. There's a trick for this. You can get little peg spanners, just clip them on if you do need to move tape. But this is why I have everything close to hand. I can always hold it, it's not a problem. There you go, she just looks better there now as well.
And then the corner of the handlebar.
Now we go to the corner, yeah, a bit more sort of pulling involved. This is where, I mean, if I was wrapping the other way, it might be slightly easier to get it around the bends. So I just sort of work the tape a little bit as I'm sort of pulling it, just so it will go around that bend nicely without lifting on the edges.
And handlebar shape.
Handlebar shape,
Here, don't they?
yeah. Some easier than others. Traditional round ones, I would say a piece of cake, but yeah, when you get aero bars or bars like this, generally as well, a lot of them will finish there, which is really difficult then. But where these finish sort of more centrally, it's a slightly easier finish. And then this is, you see where the argument would be that if you're pulling on the tops, this would effectively cause loosening of the tape. But I've never had one loosen, so the argument is void to me.
So now you're on the top, you can straighten off a bit.
Now at top, I can come around the corner, around the bend, and then I'm going to come, so I'm parallel with this edge here, and then it's just a matter of finishing to that edge. And you can also open up your gaps. Just to get it lined up. See, I'm still having to work it as I'm bringing the tape across, but where we're going to finish there is going to be bang on. So if you were starting at the top and ending in the bottom, that's what you would see essentially.
So next up?
So there's tape to hand. I've already kind of pre-cut it, so it's a nice clean edge there.
So how are you going to cut the tape there when you finish?
I will, where I come along these bars, and when I go over the bar and I'm coming to the next wrap, I'm pulling it at a bit of an angle, so it's almost bending the tape slightly. So what I do when I'm finishing tape, I will bring it underneath and I'll cut underneath so that when the finishing tape is on top, you don't see any angles on the top, so it's still a clean finish even though we're ending at the top. So I'll put the join on the bottom and the cut will be on the bottom.
Right.
And I would naturally be pulling this at the same angle as when I was wrapping the bar. So I'm cutting it on an angle underneath, as if I was to follow on. And then I will bring it back and cut opposite that angle. Almost like a small triangle.
Take it in, so you're cutting at an angle.
So I'm cutting it almost like a small triangle, and I'll put a slight bend on it rather than a big long taper.
It's about 2 inches long then, that cut?
Yeah, that's essentially what's come off it. And then where I naturally bend the tape when I'm pulling it round, that curve that I just cut essentially turns into a straight edge. And then I will tape from underneath
With your special tape?
with my
Which is narrower than normal tape?
narrower than standard insulation. And I will do...
Standard electrical insulation tape?
Yeah. And then I will go 2 wraps.
You're not overlapping with the bar here, you're on the tape.
No, I'm on the edge, so it's a tidy finish.
That's a personal thing, isn't it?
It is, because I'm pretty sure the UCI rules say you have to cover half and half. So go for that one, and then a quick snap to
Didn't know that.
break that.
Actually, you rule about
Yeah.
tape.
Yeah.
But that gives a very clean edge.
clean
these
edge
handlebars.
underneath, and it's clean underneath as well. And then another tip you could do is to heat up a screwdriver underneath, and you can almost sort of, yeah, just sort of tack weld underneath to stop the tape from coming undone. But I've got pretty good tape that does a good job. So.
There you go, viewers. Easy. You know
And then, yeah, and then obviously bar plug back over.
Happy with that?
Very happy.
So you've done one side.
Yep.
Is the second half the same process but reversed, or?
Same process. I do have to have my stand in a slightly different position so I can line everything up and make sure it's the same. Slightly more difficult in the fact that I am trying to replicate and finish in the same spot. For me, it does need to be pretty much symmetrical.
So the first one's easy, the second one's trickier because you try and match the first one.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
The same number of wraps.
Sometimes it goes really well to plan. I mean, that one did, to be fair. Sometimes I'll end up backing it off a few times to get it spot on.
And just the colour.
Yeah. That actually goes all right. Not that we're trying to match it.
Right. Thanks very much, Scott.
No problem. Thank you.